Who remembers what?
I remember that we have a pen and paper system.
Okay, so we've got 8 stats, 4 physical, 4 mental. Nice and balanced. Okay, let's start at skills. Skills seem, let's put stats over here. Skills, put character creation after it, combat after character, and put untitled rules at the beginning. Okay. Behind me, yes. I love Pookie's artwork. It's so
It is very cool.
There. Design problems with other systems that we want to solve. 5% crit success fail chance in D20. We've nuked that. It's gone. Too much math / dice in Shadowrun. I think we're well on the way to nuking that. Too many rules in Shadowrun. I've been a stickler the whole design process that everything has to be universal. So we've met this one. That's the biggest.
I think we all have.
Yeah, I know, but the biggest problem in Shadowrun is really that I learned how to do this. Now I want to do that. Totally different rule system. Oh, what's that? You know how to fire a gun? Sorry, you don't know how to swing a sword. Oh, what's that? You know how to hack a computer? Sorry, you don't know how to fly a drone. Like, your character doesn't, but you yourself don't either. The rules, the modifiers are all different for everything. It's, oh my god, makes my head blow up. Like, we're a bunch of smart technical guys that are used to a lot of interesting, like, caveat rules in programming and stuff like that. And even when we played Shadowrun, we were like, this is too complicated. It's too complicated for us.
That is exactly the reaction.
It's too complicated for us. We like complicated things quite often, so... yeah. Reward for high skill ranks. Yes. Yes, when you get to max skill rank in any of the skills we have, it feels strong so far in the mind. Sounds very strong.
And some play testing, I think, is required for that. Some of the stuff is maybe not as strong as some of the other things, but we'll play test it.
Play test is always needed. Caveat, always. There we go. Nothing is in stone. Reduce punishment at high skill ranks. I don't know what that means.
Well, we wanted you to have a higher chance of success when you have a higher rank, rather than just like sometimes you roll at 3. And I think we managed that by increasing your dice pool as your skill ranks go up.
Yep. I remember the end result we wanted was that, like, masters don't typically fail the same way that journeymen do.
Yep.
So, like, a master who fails just, is less effective, and it's not going to be like, a apprentice or journeyman who, like, stumbles and falls was, I think, a big thing for that too. So they have, like, the different types of failure. Like, you couldn't get, like, that typical, you rolled a 1 in D&D, and even though you're, like, a god, you trip and fall on your face. It's kind of like that. You would just... it would fizzle or stuff like that. I think was our approach for that. We wanted to keep that kind of power fantasy alive and not, like, break that that feeling by just being like, yeah, even though you're the best, you can still, super fuck up, even if it's rare.
Yeah, and it's just not satisfying. Like, especially when you've spent enough points to be actually a master in a skill, which is double the number of points of the skill itself, because you need to update that attribute as well. Then having it just, like, potentially kill you because you screwed up your roll, that's not fun.
Big agree.
And especially when you're, like, playing at that level, you're probably playing with a party of people at that level, and it kind of feels weird because, like, how rare it gets to at those levels. It would be weird that that would happen, and then you don't feel like, depending on how immersed you are with your character, it wouldn't feel too well with your party members, especially if it's like a super failure. You're probably letting them down. Like, let's say it's trying to save someone, and, like, this was your job as, like, a healer to be able to do this, and then, like, oh, oopsie. Like, sometimes shit happens, but, like, if it's like a thing outside of the character's control, I can kind of understand it. But if it's like the character's thing and they're supposed to be a master and they just, like, fuck it up that bad, then to me they wouldn't actually be a master. That's kind of the point of being a master of something, is that you don't make that critical level of mistakes.
Yeah,
Don't do
yeah,
plain
no,
text
absolutely.
passwords in a database.
Yep. The way I actually see it,
Equifax.
the way I see it is they can probably fail still, but it's going to be external influence. So if other things are influencing their role and bringing it down, then they do have a potential to critically fail, which is brought in by external influences. And this all makes sense to me. Like, I critically failed putting ketchup on my burrito plate this morning because I was tired and my brain didn't have full capacity, so I didn't have all my dice to roll.
Yeah, I think that comes with like the challenge of doing that then goes higher, right? So then it's not like I think what we wanted for high skill rank and high skill roles was like something as would be for an acrobat to jump from one platform to another platform that's only like 1 foot away. Like they should always kind of at the level they are, they should always be able to do that.
Yeah.
But then if there's something like a strong gust of wind, or the lights are off, or there's other things, and those are of course external factors, but that means that the actual skill ranking they have to hit is of course higher, so it's a bit more understandable. I think what we wanted for that bulletin point at least was, like we were saying, just having it so even though for most pen and paper systems there's always that chance for a critical failure, we wanted to make sure that even though that happens, if you have a high rank, it doesn't mean it's like a brutal failure. It just means like, okay, well, he jumps across and maybe stumbles, or he walks up and then stops at the last second so he can try again, or something like that, where it's not as terrible or something like that. Or if it's just that level of things, just not have it. My thing is that we're actually, like, because we're kind of designing a power fantasy kind of environment with the skill systems, we want to make sure we keep that into the late game.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yep, we're all on the same page there. Prioritize party balance rather than individual character balance. That's something just for us to keep in mind.
We haven't really gotten to balancing yet. So,
no. But it's something, like I was saying, it's just something to keep in mind. This one isn't even it's just a statement. We're stealing the WAD magic system.
Check. Did it.
Simpler to play for everyone when only using...
I don't know what that means.
Which one? Sorry.
Simpler to play when only
Nothing,
using
never
D20.
mind.
It just doesn't make sense.
I think that was left in by accident.
Great with only stuff found around the house, which basically rules out D20s.
Yeah.
Which is why we're using D6. If you have a game of Yahtzee around the house or a couple board games you can steal the dice from, you can play this.
And you don't even need very many.
Nope.
Minimum 1, maximum 10.
Minimum
for
1,
opposed 5 rank rolls.
Yeah, if everybody just wants to roll their own one right away. Agree.
So we have... you've scrolled it a bit off the screen on stream. But we have our agreeances here using D6, which we just talked about. Numbers small enough to do head math. I think we've accomplished that by using the D6. Numbers big enough to balance. That is still sort of in question. What color do I want my shirt? Purple. Combat and skills systems more streamlined than Shadowrun. We have definitely done that, and we've made it a lot more consistent between melee or physical and magic skills.
Mm-hmm. I like that consistency because you get so used to that formula that if you go from a magic character to a melee character, your points tend to do similar things in different ways, but similar things. So your power kind of comes at the same speed. You have an idea of what you're going to be able to do at what time still. I like.
Yeah. And no adding or subtracting negatives is something that we've achieved, and I'm very happy about.
Yes.
Everything that you have is a bonus. You can have a lack of bonus, but you never have a negative to something.
Yeah. Which helps a lot on the convolution side. It may seem like it's not that big a deal, like, 5 minus -1 is 6, and we know this, and it's not that hard to do. But when you're doing lots of math in your head over and over and over and over again, every time you have to subtract a negative, you've got to take that half second to stop and think, wait, reverse the signs. It's really easy to miss one, and that changes everything in the game and just ruins things moving forward. And that was one of the problems with THAC0. That's why this rule is here. It's because of fucking THAC0.
Yeah, nobody wants THAC0.
I have met one person who
we
wanted
just don't want
THAC0, but then, there's also people who want, nails driven through their testicles, so.
No accounting for taste.
And yes, I did just compare the THAC0 system to driving nails through your testicles.
And it's not an entirely incorrect comparison either.
It's a good coffee. And balances for babies in a non-PvP game. Yep.
Be strong.
Numbers
Have
big
fun.
enough to try to balance them, but let's just make people fucking strong and let them go do their thing. And then it's up to the GM to throw enough shit at them to stop them.
I think I guess the clarification we need for that too is that at least for single player games, you still need to have a game that's challenging enough to warrant conflict. Otherwise,
Skyrim.
It gets boring. Yeah, but that's different because they make their own conflict kind of thing, right? But,
Yeah, bugs. Can I get this game done before it crashes on me?
yeah, but like Skyrim is a power fantasy thing, and they get pretty strong. But it's like I said, it's more of that like sandbox where this is going to be more of a as even though Skyrim's supposed to have the storyline and go through.
It
most
technically has a storyline.
It's one of those things where like if it's too easy, there's no conflict, there's no like risk of failure, then there's not really an engaging point to do it. Like what's the point? You're kind of just like expecting at that point, but it doesn't mean that that challenge explicitly has to be like a 1v1 scenario. It doesn't even have to really be like enemies too much. Sometimes the challenge can come from economic, or it can come from other strategic values, or it can come from how you're going to cooperate. And that games like like zombie games are example for that. Like the enemies are stupid simple, but that's not the conflict. The conflict is you versus the environment, or you versus resources and your own self or cooperation. They're just there as a thing. So but power fantasy, be super strong, but we have to make sure to make sure we identify what our main conflict is going to be and what the main kind of challenges are.
Well, the main conflict and main challenges per campaign is really going to be defined by the GM.
Yeah, it's going to be mostly out of our hands, but we just need to be making sure that we can accommodate a variety of challenges.
So make sure that the tools they need to supply a challenge
is play test to get an idea of a way to rank characters, and then a way to sort enemies into what is actually challenging. Basically the CR system is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we'll need something like that for sure.
Then there's games like Zomboid where the challenge is just dice roll. The challenge is just finding the thing you need. It's just slot machine. I was up to 5 in the morning last night trying to find a sledgehammer, so I'm still a bit salty. We found it.
I was up till that time making beavers. However,
dams.
Yeah. However, the damn game is done. Although there's another faction and like 8 other maps I've never looked at. So there's that. But that one faction on that one map, I think I'm gonna load it up on stream later and show you the map that I've built, and then we'll load the original map and show you what it starts like, so we can actually look at how much influence and change over the environment you affect in the game. Because it's really interesting. I love that game. Current needs, character stats. We can knock that one out. Attack basics. We can knock that one out. Character abilities we're working on. Magic. We can knock that one out. Classes don't exist. We can knock that one out. Leveling and progression we're working on. Movement we're working on. Combat we're still working on. Creating enemies we have to work on. And crafting, I've thought about it, and I do want a crafting system. It's not going to be an in-depth crafting system. It's going to be more of a definition on how to define the crafting system, so that if you want to craft an item, the item doesn't need to be like listed in the crafting system, but you can still use a basic rule set to get a general level of work needed for something.
I'm very curious to see what your ideas for that will be.
Me too.
How do you feel about like augmentations and improvements and stuff? So like we have existing weapons, but the crafting can come from stuff you can make to like enhance your weapons, you know, like
Yes.
sharpening a blade or
100%.
enhancing a processor for tech and all that
100%.
stuff.
100%. That is part of the crafting system. Building and enhancing. And that's always been one of my favorite parts in RPGs, so it has to exist. I had a gnome illusionist mage who invented gunpowder.
Wow.
Accidentally. Just got some really good rolls while playing with my alchemy and engineering skills and came up with gunpowder as a character. Not only is it not specifically geared towards a genre, it is specifically geared towards no genre.
Yeah, or any sort of setting.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to do a sci-fi campaign with the rules that we've come up with, you totally could.
If you wanted to do a low magic modern day police where you've actually got like military style engagements and guns and stuff like this, you could pull that off with this system.
Yeah. Or if you wanted to do like Psychopaths, the pen and paper game, you totally could. It's flexible enough.
Which is something we're pretty proud of, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to take the question mark off crafting. Loot, add plus to skill equals more dice for skill. Why is all this under loot? What?
That was just brainstorming for stuff to have on loot.
What kind of smoke was I smoking? Happy 420.
No, it is 420.
Anyway, we're okay here. Maintenance system can go under crafting system. Dislikes, limiting options, and removing agency. Yes, we haven't done much of that, but CC is still a thing. Stat modifications, influencing roles, plus, yeah. Everyone knows standard 6?
Which is not what we ended up going with.
What's standard 6?
The standard 6 stats.
Oh, yeah.
Category.
Okay. Yeah, we did not do that. But they do influence roles, and they do have effect modifications. Okay, that's cleaned up. Just stats. Very, very, very basic page, but it has our strength, precision, fortitude, appeal in physical, knowledge, wisdom, resolve, and influence in mental. Stat range is 0 to 5, and they affect a raw plus to roll. That's it. That's stats. That's how complicated they are. They don't need to be more complicated than this. When we do the final write-up explaining them, it will be more complicated than this, because we've got to account for potato brains reading it.
Well, that and just like all of the different ways that you could use a stat, all of which have not been defined yet. So there could be a lot more different things that you can use a stat to influence, for instance.
Yes, but we also have to put it into potato brain speak. Which is fine. That's how things get worded. You know, you have to include the do not eat warning on your, acid
anything
vial
smaller than a thumb. It's like the silica gel packets.
Yep.
So many do not eats.
Yep. And by the way, don't eat those.
No, really do not eat those.
All right. Skills succeed binary decision. Does that term not make sense to anybody that isn't Rage Pseudo and I? I know we all understand what that means. Anybody in chat not know what skills succeed binary decision means? Rage, you want to explain it?
So the word succeed, I think, could maybe be
I love how it's
replaced
already
with
going with
success.
I think.
But the word succeed doesn't really fit there. But it's determining whether or not you have successfully done a thing with a binary outcome. It is either yes or no.
Absolutely correct, Rage and Magpie. All right, so we've got our 6-point spread for skills, but instead of 1 to 6, it's 0 to 5, which still gives you a 6-point spread, which is nice. It's nice. It's nice.
Consistency.
Opposed roll target success delta. That's the target. The target is an opposed roll target success delta. Does that make sense to chat? Because that's quite a sentence there.
It is. It is quite a sentence.
Pseudo, you want to take that one?
Sure. It's basically the target value you want to make, or the difference you want to, how much higher you want to roll than the opposing roll. The opposing roll that you need to beat, and how much you beat it by, I guess. If we're factoring in deltas. I don't know if we factored in deltas, I thought, because we had the binary you did or not, but you know, if it's a rank 4, you need to get your dice to be, or a certain amount of dice to be over that value.
Yeah, or your total value to be X over their value, where X is the delta target. Advantages. Adds a die to the die pool. Disadvantages. Gives advantage to opposed roll. And we're still using advantage system.
Yeah, advantage is good. We like advantage.
The final number of dice you keep is equal to your skill pool. Meaning... So let's think about that a little bit, because what if you do have 0 skill in something?
I thought it was always skill adds, like you always have 1 and then skill added to that. And that's why we have 5 as max, because you have 1 and then you have your dice after that.
Okay.
So rank 1 is 2 dice, I thought.
I don't remember that, so I don't know if we ever actually agreed on this, so let's smash this out and figure it out.
I think you're right. I don't think we ever specifically talked about this. But you get, the way that I've always envisioned it is you have a base die to do the thing with at rank 0. And then every skill rank you get after that adds another die to your die pool. And you can keep the number of die that are equal to, I guess, your skill ranks plus 1, because you want to account for 0.
Skill roll is 1d6 plus skill d6 plus stat. That's what we're talking?
Yeah. And then you keep the number of die equal to your skill rank plus 1.
Capital S was bothering me.
Small tangent. I when I made my New World character, I was originally pseudo and it was a capital P, and then of course that name was taken and a few other ones were taken, so I removed the P, but I forgot to capitalize the S, and now I'm one of the only characters who doesn't have a capitalized S or a capitalized first character in their name, and it really bugs me. I don't really know if there's a way to change it. And it's like, oh.
I totally understand. And I remember that.
Now you're stuck.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll institute a way to pay money to change your name eventually.
I just wish it chose something that could be construed as like, I could just I can get someone to report me, I guess. You gotta change your name, people don't like it. Oh no. Can I just capitalize it? Really? It's silly it doesn't just do it by default.
Yeah.
I would have known that. I would have made my name super hard to read by just mixing capitalized and non-capitalized characters everywhere.
Yeah, capital I, L, lowercase l, lowercase capital O, capital O, 0, 0, 0, capital O, lowercase l, capital I, capital I, capital I. Good luck.
Have fun.
I'm okay with this. That's easy enough to remember. It's easy enough to get into. You get 1 die plus your skill number, and then you add your stat to it, and that's your total.
And then you want to delta the opposed roll or delta the static thing by a certain amount.
Yep. And at most, we're going to have like 66. So that's 36.
Plus your stat rank.
I'm just thinking
So
of
that
the. I'm not worried about the total number. I was really worried about the total number on the dice because that's what the person's going to have to count and do really quick math with.
Yeah.
And that's not too bad. 5, 6.
I think 36. I think 36 leaves us enough room to balance without being like too extreme whenever you make a change one way or the other.
Yep, I like the number of pools we're getting into. The theoretical max at this point, because stat is also at 6, would be 42. I like
Which
42.
Is perfect.
That's with no other external modifiers, but yeah. 42. Well, you know when you hit 42 that you've done the right thing.
Yep.
That's like... Okay, for those that don't know, and most people know like where it originally came from. Yeah, it's from the book Hitchhikers. Some people even know like sort of the origin of it, where it was spit out by a machine that was made by a people, and the machine's only purpose was to answer the meaning of life.
The universe and everything.
Yeah. And it took them like 5,000 years to build the machine, something around that time, many, many lifetimes. And finally it's all done, and they gather around and they turn it on, and it whirs and hums and spits out the number 42.
Well, interestingly, that's not even how it worked, how it was in the book. It was another several thousand years after that it was able to spit out the number.
I forgot about the waiting period, yes. It's been a long time. But then, yes, it spits out the number 42. And they're like, well, what does this mean? And the machine goes, well, I'm only made to give you the answer. You need the question. This machine can tell you the question.
Which I think is brilliant.
And this is why when you hit the number 42, you know you've done right. You've gone the right way. Oh, we found it. Okay, let's move on. Percent failure reduction with higher skill counts. Remove D20 system, add multi D6 system, less likely to fail accomplished. More likely to perfect. Must have 3 or more. Is this still a thing?
No, I think this was when we were working with a critical success and critical fail system, and we removed that.
Because we've decided that getting the full number means you're going to beat the delta by a lot.
Yeah, and the harder you delta something, the better you did.
The one way I could see it potentially working to have a really success bonus is to not care about the dice and have a delta target similar to the instant death mechanic of AD&D, where if you take 50 damage or more, you have to roll Constitution to see if you just die.
It would be fun. I would love triggering that. it doesn't really fit in our system, and it would be a real outlier.
Like, if you delta 10 something, you get something extra. Kind of idea.
Delta 10, double your bonus, maybe? I don't know.
I didn't even think of that. I was thinking, like, weird little fringe things, but double your bonus actually isn't that bad. Because if you do the hell out of something, then you just really do the hell out of it.
And it's not going to be game breaking. You just feel like a badass.
Yeah. And honestly, most of the time, if you delta 10 something, you're just going to do it anyway. That means all the basic tasks in the game aren't really critical. Which
is
actually
fine.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
How do you crit
I critically succeeded at putting water in my water bottle. Yes.
But yeah, like it doesn't make any sense. Like, yeah, okay, you did it in one try. Like, you did the hell out of it in that one try, but you did it in one try. It was just
Didn't spill
done.
a single drop.
Yeah, but you know, whatever. I do that all the time too. But then if you, like, you know, become a master and you're working on a program, and it's going to take a long time, but it's your wheelhouse, so you get all the bonuses, and you get that plus 10 for working while you're working through the night, and you, like, do the shit out of it, and it becomes a plus 20, and you finish the whole program, and people just wake up, and they're like, you're fucking done already?
And
I
you're
like
like,
that kind
yes,
of
now
situation.
fuck off, I'm going to bed.
Yeah, and I like that kind of situation where somebody who's truly brilliant can just, like, genius something and do the hell out of it.
And I think doubling your bonus is kind of the only way to achieve that within our system without needing to add like a bunch of caveats and just like extra cruft.
A moth rooster. I can't wait to see this thing. But you almost lost the water.
No, that was after. That was drinking. I filled it just fine.
Oh, coffee. Sweet, sweet coffee. Okay, I didn't hear Pseudo complain, so I'm going to assume he liked the idea.
Critical water bottle fill means you fill it without spilling a drop and also not getting on the cap threads that would inevitably drip into your lap and look like you pissed yourself. True. Then I have done that a lot.
Have you ever been a GM punk? Because that's totally GM think right there. I know GM think because I was a GM most of my life. Nope. You would probably enjoy being a GM. You basically just to get here's how you be a GM, all right? There is a fair bit of work and setup. You gotta, like, you know, writing stories and making characters and stuff like that. But then the rest of it is just coming up with creative ways to fuck with people.
As a player, this is correct.
One time a person pissed me off and I killed him by dropping a tree on him in the forest, which pinned him to the ground and drowned him in a puddle. When this happens to you, you've pissed off the GM. Okay, I'm going to add it. Delta 10 or greater equals double your delta. We figured that out. Oh, wait, no, we didn't really. Let's talk about that some. Since we have so much stuff done, I think we can figure this out now. How do we find the target number for the thing?
So for like combat actions and associated things or anything you're doing with an opponent, I think having opposed rolls still makes sense. I think that's the best way to do that. The tricky part is doing the setting up what the difficulty of a static task is.
Well,
that I'm not sure about.
We just use the opposed roll system still for the static tasks, and the GM rolls as the task. It's only a matter of figuring out what delta, or what, I guess to figure out what skill level the task rolls as, you just figure out what skill level they need to do the task. Then you roll as that skill level.
Yeah. So if a player says, I want to jump across this 10-foot gap, and they are like a master acrobat, they have all of these skills in running and jumping, and they're very good at it. You would say, okay, well, that's a 10-foot gap. That's pretty hard. I would expect somebody to need to be pretty strong and be able to, know how to land without hurting themselves. Let's say CR3 and roll 4d6 against their roll.
Yep, and then they would get to keep 4d6 of their roll, because you keep the lowest delta. But they might have a lot of skill, so they roll a lot more dice and then have all the pluses on top of it. And then they'll keep their 4 highest dice.
Yeah.
The odds of them beating the delta is going to be good. If you have just enough skill to get over, it's going to be fair. And if you have less than enough skill to get over, there's a chance.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I was going to say that initially it seems pretty weird to have a static task be a roll. But I think that that's fine, because like you just said, even if they have a low skill rank in that thing that they're trying to do, it still gives them a chance. They could get lucky and succeed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's never hopeless. It's never hopeless. It's just much less likely. They're just rolling at a disadvantage against their task.
And if you delta 1 against a static task, you succeed, but only just.
Yeah.
I think I like it.
You know what? It's kind of cool, because then you can even use the delta as a gauge of how far they made that jump if you really want to as a GM. Like if they get half the delta they need, then they made it halfway across and just fell right down the middle. Since we have this value built into it, it's so easy to scale and gauge levels of success in a task. It just comes right out of the roll. I think it's a way better system than D20.
That's why I was so adamant about, we need to use this roll for something. We need to use these numbers. They need to mean something. And it turned out to work even better than I had hoped.
You'd say they land but lose their foot. Well, no, if they get a -1, if they're 1 delta short, then that's a fair one. If they're 1 delta over, then they land and do the whole wave their arms thing and just stop. Or delta 0 might be they grab the edge.
So there's a good question. Is 0 a success or a fail? Does defender or attacker win on a 0?
Attacker wins.
Okay.
In everything I've ever seen, a engager always has benefit.
Yeah, and we just need to have that be explicitly mentioned somewhere, I think.
It's the number to meet, not the number to beat, right?
Yeah.
The phrasing, I guess.
So far we've been using the term delta, but delta can also be 0. So what does delta 0 mean?
Delta 0 is success for engager.
Yes.
Not attacker.
Engager, initiator.
Yeah, I like that one. Initiator. It reads better. Okay. Yes, this is a very nice review of the data. This is all sorting out very nice with what we've done now. And this is how you do. Game design is a job of iteration. You do not sit down and do it at once. You need to build pieces to connect to pieces. Yeah, opposed roles, target number, total. Delta of task is equal, or skill of pose.
Difficulty of.
Well, it's the skill of the task in my mind, because it's how many skill dice they're rolling. We can call that
might just
difficulty.
have to. We might just have to roll it or write it a couple of times just to make it clear what we mean, because I know what you're going for. The number of dice that the opposition rolls.
Yeah, and I'll come up with all the right wording and stuff. I'm pretty good at stuff like this, but again, it's iterative. Oh my god, we've lost a pseudo.
No.
Yay, we've got a pseudo. Difficulty of opposed roll is the skill level needed to accomplish skill. And we'll have to reword that. It's going to be a much wordier explanation to get it clear. But here is our notes, the game designers who know what we're doing with it, kind of. Not really. But we were the ones who made this, so it only has to be enough for us to know and remember what we did. That's all it needs to be here. Oh, and that's...
That third point, I think, just doesn't need to exist anymore. That was when we were doing a pass-fail system on the rolls.
Yes. It is still a pass-fail system, but it's a pass-fail system that includes... Right, I don't know why it says face there, but it does.
I've been wondering that this whole time.
Face! Okay! Attacker and defender roll dice.
Yeah, this is back when we were working on the success system.
So let's
I think we can just nuke all of that.
this can. We still have to explain how it works here. Let's just do
I think we need to do it fresh.
Skill flow. Well, it still starts with... We can... You're not adding successes, so...
Initiator and opponent roll dice, just to have it be more general. Initiator and opposition. Yeah. That's a good word. Opposition.
That's good words. That's good words. Initiator plus opposition roll. Determine difficulty of task. Yeah, I'm just gonna completely nuke it. Initiator rolls. Skill level +1 d6. Opposition rolls difficulty +1 d6. Both sides keep smallest pool rolled. both totals determine work done by the delta. Basically that. I'd say they'd land but lose their futile arm flapping. Sometimes it works. As long as you circle the right way. Don't circle the wrong way. That'd be bad.
Yeah, circling this way is a bad thing.
That would be the fuck this shit I'm out landing.
Yep.
Yeah. Does that sound right to both of you?
Yeah.
That is more or less what we just discussed.
Okay.
I am pleased.
Hi.
There's no more targets. You're just rolling dice against other people now. That's...
You're just rolling dice and sometimes doing things. Hey, Snow.
Welcome, Snow. Hello to you. Skill structure. Oh, and then we were putting stuff in here as little examples. Okay, so we were working on CRUDs when we gave up on physical skills. This seems to be rolled back. Didn't we do a whole lot of this? Is it under combat?
I think we might have put it somewhere else.
Here we go.
Oh, you were waving because you thought that's what I was doing. No, I was doing the, I'm falling.
Okay, so this is all the melee stuff, and this is more physical skills. Okay, so we were trying to figure out what the 5 skill levels would do for these physical skills like swimming, tumbling. We need to come up with some examples for strength. Let's try to get a few more in here. Let's start with some fun, easy brainstorming to get us woken up a bit now that we've reviewed some stuff, and come up with some more skills for the game.
Seems solid.
Yeah. I think the first thing that comes to mind for strength is just, for physical strength, is the ability to move things.
Lifting?
Yeah, pushing, lifting, just like applying force, right? In whatever direction you want that force to go into. Yeah, carrying can be something.
Carrying?
How strong you can carry more.
How can we describe that concisely, though? Like, all of those things I feel like should be one skill.
Yeah.
Being better at using one's own body for physical things. Tactics skills?
It's not really tactics, though. Tactics is more a mental thing.
Yeah.
Athletics. Yeah.
Because it's kind of shared between that and precision. So athletics would be good. I think we had like running speed and stuff. Part of it was going to be in strength, because you need the leg strength to, you know, move your body, stuff like that. But athletics might be good. I'm not sure if we want to have it.
Let's stop for 1 second. How important is it for a skill to be linked to only one stat? Can you average 2 numbers pretty easy if it's a D6 and a D6?
So I had initially asked questions about hybrid skills and if that was something that we wanted, and we had said no.
Yeah.
So the way that I can think of to do a hybrid skill would be to roll both pools and cut that number in half.
I think it's we check the magic system for a second, because I remember we have abilities to mix. I think we came up with not, I guess it was, we were trying to avoid hybrid, but we have the ability to, I remember this being something, because I remember that conversation, and I remember it coming up with magic, because with a lot of the magic and mental stuff, there is overlap, and I can't remember what we decided on and how to address or
we never
accommodate that.
We never came up with that, and that's the next thing I wanted to do was go back to the magic system and tune it back up. Because we got a rough idea of what it was, enough to be able to figure out how we wanted combat to go, but we need to talk about hybrids and multiples, and we know that it's laid out so that they're not uniform between all of the mental stats.
But like magic is much easier to do this with, I would say, because if, say, you wanted to throw a fireball, you would need to be able to create energy, and you would need to be able to create matter, some fuel for that fire to consume.
Yep.
So you would need those two things, and then you can say, I throw a fireball at them.
Yeah, but with magic, it's very easy to make it additive, right?
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
It's very, very different for physical skills.
And that's, I think this is partly where the strength might come from, where magic is all additive and the numbers become big and difficult and complicated and the deltas are going to be high. So that's part of how we're going to balance it when we come back to magic, is that just a higher delta, so it takes longer. All of a sudden it's balanced, I think. We can just adjust delta.
I think we did it.
Right? We just like, hey, put up the delta, and sure, it's stronger, but you got to be able to take 3 turns to do it. That's fucking weak. We all know that if you take a very, very, very powerful magic card and you triple its mana cost, it becomes an unplayable card.
Yep. Because if you can't do it immediately, it's useless.
Yep. So with this, we can't just additive it because the big numbers don't make sense for one skill. But
although, like I said, the only way that I can think to make it work is to have your hybrid skill be composed of multiple dice pools and then cut it into chunks based on the number of skills that you had to use to do that thing. So if you needed to have, a great deal of strength, precision, and fortitude to do something, you'd have a huge pool, but then you'd have to cut it down to a third.
What if you can keep 1 plus the lowest number in your die pool when you roll them?
1 plus the lowest number of the skill?
Yeah, so if you have 3 stats, so let's use running, okay? It's strength and precision, let's say, are the 2 skills for it. We're just trying to keep it simple for the first comparisons. You have 4 strength and 2 precision. You get to roll 6 dice and keep 3.
I think that's too strong. Because you're effectively getting to pick your best rolls of a larger dice pool.
Then you get to roll 3. Five strength, 2 precision. You get to roll 3.
I think it gets a bit kind of like opening Pandora's box when we start to mix the skills that we have with the current system. If they're not like intrinsically related, it's going to be hard to balance a really high number and a really low number.
Yeah, because if you've, say you've got a hybrid skill you want to do, but you have really high strength, like you got 5 strength, you have all the strength in the world, but you only have, say, 1 rank in fortitude, and it needs those 2 skills, or you don't have, you only have 1 point in fortitude, which would be 1 die. Like you should just never attempt that, because you will almost always fail. Like, that seems bad.
Yep.
Again, the roll the whole pool and have it.
Yeah, the only way I could see it really, or not the only way, but like, if we'd have to define like the primary and then like a secondary for a skill, and the secondary you could do with like I would say it's like the primary for running is precision, but a secondary could be strength, because if you're just strong enough, you're just throwing yourself in a direction, but you would do so with disadvantage. But like that would still kind of complicate a lot of things, I would find.
Or we could just agree
balance
that
would be too hard.
with running, it's more a precision thing, and just call it precision.
Yeah,
which I'm
right, but
fine
we're
with.
gonna have like, if we want to include hybrid skills, we have to solve this problem.
Yeah, or we can decide that maybe everything really can be decided into a major and a minor, and we can just go with the major. I think is what we decided last time, but I'm happy to mull this around a little bit more and see what we come out with.
If we do major minor, disadvantage just takes away one of your dice from your pool down to a minimum of 1. As I'm thinking about that, the more I like it. Because if you've got something that's primarily a precision skill, okay, so let's take the example of athletics. Primarily strength, but also precision is important. You could roll your strength against it and get your whole pool, or you could roll, say you don't have high strength, you could roll precision and take disadvantage on the roll in order to use it anyway, which means that it's not useless because you probably have more than one precision.
So basically, precision becomes more worth it than strength if you have more than one extra point in precision.
Yeah.
So at a 4 precision, 3 strength, it becomes a moot point.
Yeah, it would be equal.
I'm okay with playing with that idea.
I think that makes sense. I mean, it's kind of balanced in that regard. If you're a lot stronger, then you wouldn't use it. If you're a lot more precise, then it's kind of just like you have good form. And as long as it's like my worry about it is like trying to balance it for later things, where if you just get really high precision, all of a sudden you can do the really janky strength stuff that may not make sense. But I think I was just making sure that the major minors, actually make sense for the end game or the end level stuff. If you have really high precision, you can't just like, or maybe you can, as long as it's explainable. We'd have to be a bit careful, but I kind of.
Yeah, but we don't want somebody to be able to like cheese their way with precision to be able to throw a giant boulder, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But there is some stuff that it makes sense that you would be able to make up for a lack of strength with good form with. Or you would make up for your lack of strength with good form.
I
think running is a really good example of that, even though we decided that running isn't going to be a skill.
Yeah, but like
I'm okay with putting running under fortitude.
Like swimming. I mean, like swimming could have a minor in precision, because if you have great swimming form, you're gonna go right through that water.
Yeah, so I think we should change the layout of our skills here. Let's just put a table in.
Gonna getting complicated, but it's good.
Yeah, it's what we needed. Table. How do I use you? Insert table.
So we will need name, description, formula, or not necessarily formula, but name, description, and associated skills.
Yeah, name, skills, description. The order I see it. let's do this big for now. Name, skills, description, not Descrion.
Yeah, we're not working in Oracle DB.
Skill
Stories
order
of legacy
is
jank.
skill order is important in the below table. The primary skill is first, secondary skill is after. Secondary skills roll at disadvantage.
At the end of the day as well, we could also put in a bit of a clause that it can be up to some team discretion if the player can properly justify their case of why their skill could be applied as a minor. Then maybe the GM can allow it to be a that disadvantage roll.
Yeah.
Something if they can
Come
up with a reason or come up with some way that they can utilize their strengths to do that action. I'm trying to think of some examples, but like I said, for if we didn't explicitly define swimming as a precision skill, and they say, hey, what if can I use my precision in the form of I'm going to attempt to do perfect form. I understand how to move my body through the water, or if it's strength, you're just going to be I'm just going to basically jump off the I'm going to do a dive and just try and dive as far forward as I can. And even though I'm not really swimming or pushing, I'm just going to kind of, punch the water out of my way as best I can or get as far as I can with that initial jump.
I would say the swimming guy is probably not going to win the argument. That's not very effective. But I agree with you, but I do think that's covered by the main clause at the beginning of all of this, where everything is GM discretion. And I even want to encourage players to argue their case with their GM.
Yeah.
If your GM doesn't have a headache by the end of the session, you weren't doing your job as a player.
Or the systems really well and you got some jank. He's like, no, it's technically correct. This is allowed within the rules.
So let's start with tumbling, which we wanted to be
primary precision.
And do we want more than that?
I would say secondary fortitude. To just you land shitty, but it doesn't matter.
It's like the superhero fall. You just put all the thing into your knee, but you just have a very strong knee. It's
well, fortitude kicks in then for when you land shitty and have the fortitude to take the damage.
That's not very graceful.
That's how the fortitude factors in there. It's not really the tumbling skill, it's your damage absorption skill. Not an advisable way to tumble.
Oh my god, we're so good at designing systems. So you take a big fall, you roll tumbling, even if you've got a lot of ranks in the skill, you still may have a negative delta, and that's how much damage you take. Yep. We're so good at designing systems.
We have to talk about our health pool and everything. I do want a static value, which is going to play very, very well into what you're talking about for how much damage you take. And then you just have ways of reducing damage.
Yep. And that's sort of the assumption that we worked off of when we were doing combat as well. So I think it'll fit.
Swimming is a precision skill? No, it's a fortitude skill.
Yes, it is a classes system. Where you have your skill points to basically spend.
Yep. But there's also magic, which is optional. And we haven't gotten too deep into that part yet, but you can basically spend a lot of points and invest them to kind of turn it on and off. Or turn it on. You can't turn it off. You don't want to turn it off.
You can turn it on to varying degrees.
Yeah. Oh, having items that absorb magic and stuff just built into the system would be interesting.
Or magic detection.
Yeah, things for GMs to remember. Build spheres where if magic is cast in them, it just gets absorbed into it. Kind of like the 3 statues in 6. That was always cool.
Yeah.
Fortitude, sub-precision?
Yes.
The ability to swim. Yep. That's right. We still explained it. Magic eating
Give
mobs.
Nintendo some props, but they have a way to go with the Twitch app. Oh, is there a Twitch app on Switch?
That would be
Twitch's problem.
Twitch's problem,
not Nintendo's.
It's a mix. It's a mix. The Switch for the app stuff isn't the easiest to work with, but it will be Twitch that's actually making that app. I see I've seen a few Stack Overflow posts about things that aren't supported in the Nintendo browser, and how much of a pain it is to have to make things compliant with it.
I'm really liking the way this 2-skill disadvantage system is working. Now charm becomes sub-influence.
After thinking about it for a couple of minutes, it made a lot of sense. It was Pseudo that came up with that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It's a team effort.
Well, yeah, I was about to say it's interesting because, if that idea probably never would have been come up with at all had there not been the 3 of us questioning each other and forcing different constraints towards each other. And that's how these ideas come up. That's why you work in a team. You will get better ideas from team discussion than you will from single-person design every single time.
Which is why I'm really excited to get you guys working on RageBot. Because a lot of the stuff in there is jank as fuck.
Yup. Well, I've been helping. Every time I see you doing something that you shouldn't be doing, I'm right there in chat going, you gotta think about this.
It's true. It helps. It helps a lot.
You didn't say the magic word.
Oh god. Oh no. Imagine, I'm assuming that there's ransomware out there that uses that, and that's just terrible.
I love it. So charm, influence, appeal, the ability to influence a person's decision with charm.
So this makes sense because we have intimidate under influence,
but now it can go influence strength.
Well, influence appeal. Appeal is not just how nice you look.
Yeah, it's just how well you've presented yourself.
Yeah,
I guess period. Just how well you present yourself, or how you can. You basically get to choose what you present is what I meant to say. How well you can present what you want. How aware of your of how you look to others, basically, and the ability to modify that. So, you puff out your chest.
may need a better word for that, but appeal for now.
Appeal is.
I think we seem to, as long as we define it with an example, it'll probably be fine.
Presentation?
Yeah, it's just hard because English words are hard. There's so much overlap.
English is dumb.
The way that our talking system is done, Dragon, is actually such that whenever a player asks a question of an NPC, they can roll dice and it will force a decision based for how much information the GM should give them. So there's less of this just having to negotiate with your GM to get what you want, and more of just being able to have a character who's good at talking, even if you're not necessarily. So you can RP it. Which I really like. Because I've always...
The character has skills, not necessarily the player.
I've always felt that the speech side and interaction with NPC side of most pen and papers is just too thin and not there, and that's a big part of the game. That's why we play it.
That's why they're role-playing games.
Engineering.
Do you want to play as your character?
Is engineering only knowledge? I think it is.
Maybe sub-wisdom?
I think wisdom would make sense too. I mean, if you've seen enough structures and seen how they work and been experienced with them, then, or like you can figure things out, right? You can apply, like some basic, I guess, the common sense principle of like, this makes sense. Like I've never, really made a catapult, but I can get the idea of, putting tension down here and then, holding it and releasing it. It may be crude and it may not work, but, I could probably attempt something. I think that might make sense.
I mean, the thing to remember with the sub skill is you still have to know engineering in order to use it. It's just if you've got 2 points of wisdom and engineering, you can roll as 1 point of knowledge engineering. So you've got enough wisdom to make up for a little bit of knowledge. And I'm okay with this.
And if we go back to how we were planning that you acquire these skills, since engineering is a knowledge primary, you would need to have at least 1 point of knowledge in order to unlock engineering at all.
Or 2 points of wisdom.
And if you... I don't like that.
No? Only primary? I think they should be just enough to roll for it. If you have enough to influence the roll.
Which is what you have to have.
I think we're talking about the skill unlock. Like you have to put a point in the skill to even be aware of it, if I believe. Because otherwise you have rank 0 and you don't even have sense.
Yeah. And in order to put 1 point in it, you do have to... But so we're only looking at the primary skill for that?
For unlocking the skill, yes.
Does that mean you're only looking at primary for advancing the skill?
Correct. So if you had 2 knowledge...
That means that
if you had 2 knowledge and 4 wisdom, it would be better to roll wisdom because you would get an extra die, but you would only have rank 2 engineering tops.
I see. Yeah, there is a niche case there for where it's actually usable. It's pretty niche that you would actually use it, though.
I think it's gonna make sense. I think for primary trait or primary thing to unlock the skill makes sense, especially when we get into magic, because then you're gonna get kind of complicated things. Because I think magicians are gonna be mixing a lot of points, but it makes sense that if you're specializing, you have to use your...
Magicians are additive. So there's no advantage, disadvantage on which one you roll. You're rolling them both.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, if we want to have the same unlock system for both, we're going to have to be aware of the changes we make to strength, or the changes we make to the physical skills are going to go across the board, unless we want to do different systems for each, which we could, but we might be getting a bit complicated there.
They're going to be slightly different because magic is additive.
So but only slightly. Like
it's going to be intrinsic
the
slight
unlocking
differences.
And stuff. The unlocking and whatnot should be the same.
Which means just on one skill.
Yeah.
We're just saying there's a secondary... Okay, so secondary skill is literally just if you happen to have this skill higher, you may use it. But it's going to be a pretty niche thing.
And I think that's fine.
Yeah, it's more if you're a high wisdom character, you can, do a little bit of engineering if it appeals to you on an RP sense.
Yeah, it's mostly just like I'll give it a shot kind of thing, where it's like
not what I'm built for.
Yeah, it's going to be those edge case, environments or events anyways, where it's like, oh, we don't have anyone to do that, or like, you have an engineer, but they're incapacitated right now, and you need to, repair or fix up the catapult that you built, you're like, I kind of have an idea. I think I can figure it out, and then you can give it a shot at least. It's not going to be, you're there with your engineer, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to take your job because I have, a bunch of wisdom. I'm just going to I think it's more of those edge cases that this will actually kind of shine. But I think it'll be cool because then it kind of adds a lot more
Flavor,
tools to the trade and flavor, and a lot more. You don't just have one person who's able to do that one thing. There'll be a little bit of overlap, so the GM has a bit of ability to throw a bit more at the players and not just having like each player always playing that single role. Not everyone's going to always just be that tank. There's going to be a little bit of stepping over between the that Holy Trinity kind of stuff too. It's like like a more precise. But even though like I said, for the tank thing, you'll be high in fortification. But if you're, very high in precision, well, maybe you're a lot better at, the dodging, the tumbling, or there's ways that you can get around, mitigating that damage. You can roll with the punch. You can do something like that where it's like not as effective of, just having that, that, raw block or that raw ability to take damage. But, you can still at least try.
So like if you have swimming unlocked at rank 1 and you have 3 precision and 1 fortitude, it is still better for you to roll your precision bonus, or roll with your precision bonus.
Yep. And you still want to have a swimming skill.
Yeah, and you still need to have that rank 1. So you get your 1 die, but you get your +3 from precision.
Which actually makes it worthwhile to spend just a couple, because the first point of a stat is cheap, experience-wise, compared to buying the second, third, fourth, fifth, and actually building it. It's a very small experience point investment. And it opens you up to a whole realm of skills that you can put a point into and just be okay at, and your secondary skill allows you to actually have some benefit at it and not be trash at it.
I think it will help against that kind of mid-maxing that will tend to happen, where like you have the stuff you're good at, but you can only do it and you're really good at it, but that's it. It'd be nice that you still have that stuff you're really good at, but you can still do some other things. You don't kind of have to just sit on the sidelines for certain events. Everyone can kind of get involved, because I could see that now. I'm thinking about it, like that could be, since we have swimming as a skill, if there's ever a point where they need to swim and everyone only has, they got the swimming skill and they only have 1 point of fortitude or whatever, because not many other people would take it, or 0 points of fortitude, like it's going to be kind of a problem where like everyone should be able to have like, okay, it's not graceful, but you doggy paddle, to the other side, hoping there's not a strong current or something like that.
Sorry to interrupt, but like that's one of the things that I was concerned about with having running as a skill, and it's sort of coming up again now with swimming. Because you don't automatically get 1 rank in a skill.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you spend that point on being able to move across terrain X, then you just can't do it at all.
I like swimming and climbing being skills.
I think at least swimming kind of makes sense because you kind of have to learn it. It is a skill.
So is climbing.
We don't really know it. Most people don't know it as they're kind of growing up, or like there's not really too much intrinsic thing unless you're like, I mean, I guess nowadays a lot of people are exposing their babies to water early on so they can learn to float and roll over, and I guess walking is kind of trained, but I'd say that our bodies are kind of more designed to be walking around than we are to be swimming, and it's more natural of a movement. But I'm not really against it because I can see it kind of sucking that it's like you can't swim at all.
Like you basically just lose an XP point because you have to take swimming rank 1.
Do you?
Absolutely. What if you're thrown into a situation with water?
Yeah, I'd be fucked.
I can't have swim. To take that point.
I didn't take that point.
I mean, I guess it is just a risk reward. I mean, there might be other skills too that you feel like you could have to, but like
you might decide to min-max and decide, I'm not going to need to. I'm just not going to put myself in a spot where I might end up in a shitty spot with water.
Yeah, that or just like the person with high swimming, come save me.
You'll
just have to.
Yeah, in my mind, In my mind, I see it as I know people in real life, even aside from myself, that don't know how to swim. I don't know people that don't know how to run. I do know people that don't know how to climb a wall.
Really? That is fascinating to me that you know people who don't know how to climb a wall.
Yeah, and then there's people that know how to scale a sheer face.
'Cause, like, I am definitely not scale a sheer face, but I have climbed over many a thing in my lifetime. That's fascinating how different life can be.
There are absolutely people that can't climb a wall. There is a skill to it.
Or a tree.
Yeah, well,
tree.
trees are much easier even, but yeah, some people couldn't even make it up a tree.
You'd be surprised. I know a lot of people used to climb trees a lot. And
Yeah, we
a
did
lot of
too.
trees in our backyards here, and there's a lot of people who they just can't, really grasp it. Because like if there's a lot of branches, sure, but if there's no branches, it gets a lot more difficult. You have to be able to identify your finger holds and all that other stuff. So there is a skill to that, as well as like a, you know when to quit, so you don't get stuck. You've had some people get stuck in trees before, and so it's.
Yeah, but
not as.
But with running, again, I've never met a person who's like, I don't know how to run.
Walking, but faster.
Everyone's moving fast. How are they doing that?
Pseudo, I can literally see the gears turning.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'm getting Thanos. It's not showing up in OBS Ninja. I think you might still have like filters applied on my source from the.
Might have it on both ears actually.
From the awards one.
Yeah.
I was trying to fix that a bit. That's why my screen went.
I see.
Had a color over it because I added a black image behind me. I'm like, if I'm fading through, I'll blank out the transparency, and it still happened. I'm like,
there you go.
It's not on my front.
There you go.
Guess it's not on my end.
Fading away. There we go.
There's rages as well.
Pseudo, you're back to existence again.
Yeah.
I fixed rages as well.
I saved my timeline. Went back. I was gonna say back to the 80s, but now it's back to the year 2000.
Oh God, we're old.
Yeah. Yeah, the 80s was 22 years ago.
No, 80s was 40 years ago.
What? Oh yeah, 42 years ago. That's what I meant to say. Yeah. 2000 is 22 years ago. Wow.
We old.
We are old. Okay, let's work on games and not talk about how old we are. That's way more fun. Engineering, knowledge, wisdom, the ability to design and alter. The ability to create and alter designs.
Actually,
Must specify a field when taking each copy of this skill.
The more think about it with knowledge, or for engineering with knowledge and wisdom, that at some point that knowledge didn't exist, so someone had to use wisdom to create it. Kind of idea, and it was the refinement of that put it into knowledge. I think it makes sense that if you're very wise, you can, try and figure out some things.
But you could also argue that those people who were very wise in figuring things out were wise enough to go and gather all the knowledge they needed. So it's
so it works anyway in our system. Like
everything just works.
What your point is?
I mean, yeah, we have a chicken and the egg scenario there. Like, what came first? It's like.
I think we just built a really good system. This is very robust. I like it.
I really like the way it plays out. And I changed some wording above. I don't know if you noticed, but skill order is important in the below table. The primary skill is first. Alternate skills are after. Alternate skills roll at disadvantage. Now we're not limited.
Rather
and we can
than
have
secondary.
as many. And now we can have as many skills added as we want.
The skills column should probably say stats, because those aren't skills.
Thank you.
And primary stat is first, alternate stats are after. We did a dumb.
Thank you.
Words are hard.
Okay, there we go. It all makes sense now. You have so many points in swimming, but none in mountain climbing. I'm the other way around. I can weasel my way up a mountain. Hell, I carried a dirt bike up a mountain. I say carried because a lot of it was like 6-foot sheer rock cliff face, and we were like, I don't think I can get up that. So one person goes up and one person stays down and gets off the bike and uses the throttle to help push it up the wall until the other person gets it and can grab the handlebars and pull it up the thing. And we got 2 little 50cc dirt bikes all the way to the top of the mountain. That was a lot of fun. Though we legitimately did more time carrying the bikes up the mountain than actually riding them. It was so fucking brutal. Study. What does study actually do? The ability to consume and recall information?
When we were discussing this, I vaguely recall. Why do I cover my eyes when I'm thinking? This is a weird habit. If
maybe
I
your
vaguely
brain
recall,
does better with less stimulation.
Maybe. But I vaguely recall us having this as sort of the counterpoint to something else. The idea was you would be able to study either somebody doing something or somebody, or, read a book or whatever, in order to gain that knowledge for yourself. So yes, the ability to consume information and then recall it later.
Yeah, the recalling could just be the player writes it down. That's, you don't need to study to do that, but let's say you didn't write it down as a player, but you remembered reading it from a book, and you want the GM to tell you what you've forgotten. You could use this skill to remember what you had learned. And then the GM would have to tell it to you.
What else would we use it for, though? We would use it for, I guess if a character had high study and had a history studying a certain thing that was in that world but doesn't necessarily exist in the real world, or the player doesn't know that information in the real world, your character would know that thing and the GM would have to provide that information.
I see that more as a knowledge. Study is the ability to get knowledge, so I would use it like you're in a library or you've got a tome with some information in it and you need to understand what it's all about. You give it to the character who's good at has the high study skill to read and gather information from to summarize for the party, and the better you do, the more detailed and clear the information the GM gives you is.
Yeah, I like that definition. I'm not sure that that's captured by the description that we wrote there.
I see that as consuming information. You've got a piece of media with information in it that you need to be able to consume.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's not hold up the process on that one. Maybe come back to it if we come up with something.
Example, reading a book and gaining insight. Good? We can remember based on that. Composure. Resolve. Wisdom.
I think composure is just straight resolve.
Wisdom definitely helps you maintain your composure.
But then resolve is kind of exactly that.
Yeah, that's why it's definitely the primary.
Eh.
Intimidate. Influence. Appeal, you said?
Yeah, appeal secondary.
Intimidate someone into doing something you want them to. Composure would involve charm too, right? No, charm is really your ability to affect others, whereas composure is entirely your ability to resist others affecting you.
Yeah, so you would use composure against charm.
Yeah, I have to order dinner right now. Are you guys on this page or not? I didn't set up the bot at all, is why, did I?
Nope.
Here you go, have a Doom background.
I like Doom.
Doom! Pop it in chat for anybody that wants to get damn it. Pulled it off to do that and then put it on before I finished it.
Good job.
Go me! And I'm going to get this started while you guys fill out more skills. Japanese and sushi are their own distinct categories.
Yeah, I've noticed that on a lot of delivery places.
I gotta take Crummets off, but yeah, we got Yakuza 6 is already in the theater display.
Ooh. There's 7.
Yep. There's 2 games after it and then 7. But
so let's do Interrogate.
Dragon's Dogma is not a quick game.
No, it is not. Interrogate would probably be primary influence. Would it have anything else?
I could see.
I could
see appeal maybe. Like,
I don't think it makes sense on Interrogate. Interrogate. It'd be more useful for Intimidate.
Yeah, I guess at that point you would just intimidate the information out of them. I guess it's kind of just. Let me see these skills we have. Maybe knowledge or wisdom.
I can see wisdom. Well,
because you could just ask them. Like, you could think of the questions to ask them, and they, because influence, you're just trying to get them to do it. But maybe with wisdom, you can kind of just infer it from them not even really saying anything.
Yeah. No, wisdom makes sense as a secondary. That's a good one. Persuade. Now, this one might be a triple.
Oh,
so I'm thinking
fancy.
Primarily influence. And then definitely appeal as a secondary. And maybe wisdom?
I could see that.
I want most steer points in cooking, please. You've already got them. You already did your specking. The ability to persuade another character to do, think, say something that aligns with your goals. Bluff.
Might also be a triple.
Yeah,
Concealed.
influence, appeal, wisdom again.
He looks like with appeal, you could appeal as a truthful person, and they don't even have to even try to detect bluff. Wisdom is basically just being able to. You would have the wit to get through that conversation. And with influence, you just know how to bluff in the first place, so that there's just no even question.
I think appeal bluff, you would still be bluffing the person. You would just know, be using your appeal to kind of blind them so they don't know that you're bluffing. Make it easier to get by them.
That's what I said.
Oh, okay. I misheard.
I said you'd appeal. You'd look like a truthful person, so they wouldn't even detect bluff. Kind of an idea. You would blind them.
You're still actually rolling against their detect bluff skill, though. Yeah. Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah, it's just to explain the situation throughout for a GM. I think that would be what's going on for your appeal, rather than influence where you're,
So we've got a bunch of mental and physical skills in here now. I think that's enough examples of both.
Well, we were actually just creating a decent little list rather than copying over. I'm glad we came up with this, but if we want to add some, I was thinking, we were all looking a little fried mentally, and I was like, let's just come up with some brainstorming and write down some skills.
Yeah, we did it.
Well,
we have good examples of both.
We actually didn't add a single skill. We just copied all these down, but we came up with this new system, which I like. And
I'd say the system's probably
everything
make it a lot easier to make new skills.
Yeah.
Because I think trying to make skills before felt really restrictive.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, we were thinking about strength, and now strength is a bit easier because we can have the skills that are, dominant strength, but, you have a bit more, you can put some precision into that. And easier to blend things in.
Okay, well, we have 15 minutes at the end. We can look at Crud's physical skills if you want to continue, or we can keep adding skills for 15 minutes and do some basic brainstorming.
I do want to take a look at crudding physical skills.
Okay. Let's do that then, and then next week we can look at magic again.
So we've got do the thing on rank 1, which is consistent with everything.
Yep.
Rank 2... For other things, do we then give the bonus at rank 2? I remember that on physical, I think.
Information was ability to determine if things will be effective. Conversation is how susceptible will the target be to my skill. So 2 tends to be an information gathering skill. The ability to gauge a delta?
This physical, I think, is more closely tied to combat than conversation or information.
It's true, it is more real time. We're talking like a tumble, but that's why I'm saying maybe 1, you can start being able to tumble. 2, you can gauge the delta before you attempt it. So at 1, you can go ahead and try it. At 2, you can ask the GM, how hard is this going to be to do?
I like that, actually. I like that a lot.
What about pseudo?
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that's good.
With one, you'll just say, I'm going to try to do this, and then all of a sudden the GM's going to pull out a handful of dice, and you're going to be like, oh.
Oh, shit.
Which I actually like even more, because that means at 1, you know exactly enough to get yourself in trouble.
Yep.
Which is exactly how skills work in real life. Oh, never trust the person who just started doing it to do something by himself. Oh, man.
No, you just give them broad credentials. It's fine.
And that's read. That's read. I didn't even look at it, but that's read. This is literally what it is. You're reading a skill. So update. Most of these are. This is when you become like sufficient and fluent at a skill. Is at 3. Like other ones is like you don't have to do it as a one-on-one anymore. You can do it multiple times. You can take on things. You're actually talented at this now.
So for physical combat,
Not combat.
we added
skills.
right. Let me finish.
I see. I'm sorry.
For physical combat, we added the ability to do it on the move, which I think has a pretty good carryover here.
Parry was being able to do it to any number of attacks in the round rather than just one attack per round.
That's defense. Combat. Keep scrolling.
Yeah, ability to attack and move at the same time. Yeah. Ability to attack and move at the same time. Yep. Wow, look at all that math. Wow, look at this. We did work. This is a combat system.
There's been many hours into this now.
Oh. We've got a game system, guys. Yeah, ability to do it on the move. That doesn't apply to swimming.
Not really, no. But
yeah,
you could run to the water and then start swimming.
I think it'd apply to, like, swimming means not drowning, right? You have to keep yourself afloat. Enough. So, like, I don't know, like, it'd be hard to be swimming and then still attacking. You know, I don't think I could do that. I could, I could float in one point and attack, but I don't think I could be moving my arms and swimming and attacking. I think that might make sense that you can start mixing your options like that.
Oh! Ability to use the skill in combat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good.
That was one of those, click moments.
Thank you, Pseudo. So then we have one more step before we get to surpass your limits, which is going to be like the holy fuck, how did you even do that? That was amazing.
And then they fall over and pass out for a while.
Triple forward flip from a standing start.
And then you'd like Delta 10 with 5 ranks.
The most superhuman thing I've ever seen a person do, where I saw it and I was like, there's no way, was a standing on one leg with his eyes closed on a 1-inch by 1-inch wooden pole, like 2 feet off the ground. So like just the ball of his foot on this little piece of wood in crane stance. And he stayed there for an hour without flinching while we did a class behind him.
That's a hell of a thing. That is rank 5 balance right there.
Oh, we need a balance skill. That's all I'm going to put in there. We'll put more in later. Yeah, I've actually seen this with my own eyes. Otherwise, I wouldn't believe it. That was one of those times where I saw something with my own eyes that I I'm like, I'm glad I saw this because I wouldn't believe myself.
And balance is probably precision sub fortitude.
Yeah.
And now we can mix mental and physical skills.
Yep. Yep. We don't here.
Precision, mental fortitude, whatever that was. Resolve.
It's a lot of fortitude, too. Oh. It's because of the new page here.
Yeah.
I think you just remove page breaks.
Can I?
I think it's an option. I remember I've had to do it a few times. Like, I'm never printing this. There are no pages.
Page orientation? No. Page numbers, more options. Start at, show on, no. Look, it pushed the fortitude down for the balance. Precision,
might not be.
fortitude, and what else?
Resolve.
Resolve. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, 4. You can do things not yet. Things that do not yet exist. You can apply your influence to crowds. Ballistic and indirect trajectories and ranged. It's starting to get creative. Attack multiple targets in a swing with melee. Ballistic / indirect trajectories and ranges. That would be really fun in like advanced gun scenarios and stuff like that, where you're a sniper and you're like, I'm gonna use the bullet drop to drop this bullet behind the barricade and catch him in the head.
Yep. Or bouncing bullets off surfaces using ricochets, stuff like that.
Under the car, yeah.
You wanted pizza, so you made pizza. Oh boy, I'm having pizza.
Lucky. I'm having Japanese, so I can't complain. Some yaki udon and tempura and cinnamono and gomai, and it had everything in that little dinner pack. I was like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, I'm gonna get that.
Oh yeah, I want that. Oh yeah, I want that.
So how do we get creative with a physical skill?
How do we get creative?
Use multiple.
Combine physical skills?
We have combined for update for information though, but
Yeah, under information, is that a 3?
Right, but again, this is very different than an informational skill. This is closer to combat, like attacking. So I think combining physical skills makes sense.
The other thing that comes to mind is maybe like being able to have a reactionary skill. Like if something happens, like you're able to do something else as well, another physical skill, like a reaction.
Able to use as a bonus action?
Yeah, maybe like you can use maybe like provide a bonus action, and maybe not everything can be a bonus action, because then it allows us to tweak what's possible, so we don't get like really janky shit with physical skills, depending on how many we add. Or something. What I'm envisioning is like you go to attack and like you get parried, but then you can, you know, do something with your block, or like do something else with it, or like a kick, or like have some ability that you don't just, it doesn't just end there. You have some combos that you can add, or
So the actions that we have defined on a combat turn so far are 1 defense action, 1 offense action, and 1 movement action.
I'm totally cool with having a bonus action in there. I am. I think having more little actions isn't a bad thing, but I do think too many of them creates complication. I think 1 bonus is fine. That's 4. 4 is easy enough to remember.
1 bonus, and you can only use things. You can only do things as a bonus action that specify they can be used as a bonus action.
That and there will be a basic list of simple bonus actions. Bonus action should be like, use an item, or pass something to somebody, things like that.
I think it might be nice to be able to do like another attack or something, kind of like a when you're at that high of a level and you attack. It's not, because that's one thing I've always found kind of lame when you get high level of like strength and stuff in like other pen and paper games, is that your attacks kind of just become, I'm swinging and that's kind of it, and then they block or they don't or they dodge.
We are already way beyond that in this game.
Yeah, but my thing is that like there's not too much else that you can do in response to what happens with the resolve. So as a bonus action after their resolve, you can. It's only 1 bonus action that you can at least maybe try doing again, or maybe you got pocket sand, so that you can set up an advantage for your next turn. Mm-hmm. Something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But maybe they parry it, but with your open free hand, you then I'm going to throw some sand in their face, and depending on what's going on, it might prolong some of that stuff. But like I said, I found that when I play those games before, and I could see it even happening in ours, like it would just be like you're kind of just going to be doing the same motion and resolving if it's mostly physical. It'd be nice to be able to have a bit more of situational awareness and a little bit more of a combo kind of going into that. Where if you had 2 players who are fighting each other and they're both doing physical fighting, it's going to be, a lot more of that kind of like feint and then throw, or then dodge and then counter kind of stuff, rather than the just I block and then I'm going to do my attack. And
I like it.
He blocks it.
I like the bonus action idea, and I think that gives us, like I said, a place to put a lot of the simple stuff into combat, so that you can hand something to somebody. You both use your bonus action, and now that item is his instead of yours. Call things out, do little things, use skills like information skills or other technical skills in combat would be, I guess that would be your main action.
Yeah, I mean, like, we'll go through and balance it. Like it's going to require
attack action will have to be called main action, so it'd be main action, defense action, bonus action, move action,
and it might even be something that gets limited on like depending on what item they're using. Maybe we just chain it that way so we can not have too much jank. If it's a one-handed sword, what your bonus action is going to be able to be is going to be different than if it's like a two-handed great sword, or if it's like a like that kind of thing, or like sword and shield. Like you'll have an actual free hand, so the things that are available, might get complicated, but it's gonna be a balanced thing. But I think that would be cool. I think that would open the door up for a lot more. That similar thing when you're playing a mage, you're kind of combining a lot of the skill sets you have, a lot of the tools that you're at your disposal. And I think it might be nice to kind of have a same thing for high level kind of strength characters.
Yes, Rage.
By default, you do not have a bonus action. You can do things like talk, interact with items, etc., regardless. Specific skills and items gain the ability to be used as a bonus action. And they give you that bonus action.
But only 1 bonus action per...
But only 1 per turn.
So... a lot of those things would probably have to take like your main action then.
By default, yes.
Even passing an item to someone?
If you're digging through your bag, grabbing the thing and trying to pass it off to somebody, that takes about as long as prepping and swinging a weapon.
I agree if you have to get the item out. That takes a main action. But what if it's in your hand and you want to hand it off to somebody?
You
can't be attacking when you're doing that.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily take the whole time, though.
Remember, a turn is only 5 seconds.
That's true.
We don't have long turns.
And I think that's kind of the whole point of like they're skilled enough to know how to do it at the same time. They can, it's like watching, like if you watch like Lord of the Rings with Legolas, he's doing a bunch of shit at once and then, passing things over to people and doing that stuff is because he's very physically skilled.
Yes, I agree. He's definitely not a newbie to be able to do stuff like that. Okay, well, we'll play with it.
Now I'm just imagining like someone with low health asks for like a healing salvo, and then like the person goes to swing and throws it without looking, and then just pegs them in the face with it and deals damage and die. And kills them with it. Oh,
Catch! Kills them. I kind of did that to somebody once. Thankfully, because it was real life. But I did do that to somebody. I felt bad. We were playing soccer, and everybody was wearing shirts, and I didn't realize he was on my team. So I checked him and took the ball away from him. And then I realized he was on my team. So I turned around to pass the ball back to him because I felt bad for taking it away from him. But when I checked him, I had checked him hard and like knocked him into the ground. So all I did is take the ball away from him and like turf him, and then take a couple steps and turn around and kick the ball right in his face. Felt bad.
So, but back on topic of our system, as good as that story is, back on topic of our system here. So a turn will be, by default, one defense action, which can get expanded by ranking up your ability to use that form of defense. I think we've got it on rank 3 or 4 for most of them. 3. You can use it against any number of attacks, so you can defend against as many attacks as are incoming. 1 main action, which is your do a thing action, and 1 movement action. Then once you get a skill up, a physical skill up to rank 4, it gives you a bonus action and can be used then.
Yep, that's what it is right now. Which is kind of nice because it's going to give you a lot of tools in combat to play with.
And then at that point, we can also add items that do not consume your main action to use, or stuff like that.
Yeah. We'll talk about that more when we do a review of the combat system, now that we have all this stuff added. Yeah, we'll definitely have to do like... And in the item system, there will be stuff that allows things to be, quick itemed. There will be mods from equipment. Like if you had a utility belt, you could put stuff on it, and then those items would gain bonus action.
Or the thing that would that my mind immediately twigged on is a quick draw holster for a pistol, for like my anti-mage character. Quick draw holster that allows me to equip and ready my pistol using a bonus action rather than that taking my main action.
Yeah, exactly. We are of the same mind. So where do we go with 5 on Cruds?
I still like surpass your limits.
Well, yeah, that was just our top level thing. How do you define surpass your limits?
Do something that a human being shouldn't be able to do.
Like?
Lift a car.
Lift a car, rip your own limb off to get stuck from underneath a boulder.
Take a huge amount of damage and, not die, like fortify yourself, or,
you can
dodge at human speed, like go super fast, jump super high.
You can attempt to apply this skill in any way imaginable.
Yeah.
I think what we came down to was that like stuff that typically would be such a high delta you couldn't do, you can now try. It adds, enough bonus that you can go to those inhuman limits. But I think there was we were adding like that risk reward aspect to it.
Yeah, there's no limit to the delta at this point. You can go up and up and up and up and up, but you can tackle anything. But can't you always tackle anything?
But this
you always try to do it?
You can always try to do it, but this is different. This is if you've got rank 5, you also delta 5, then you can do something inhuman. Like you're so fast that you dodged a bullet, or you swim so quickly that you were able to move across a flooding river, or you jump so far that you jump like a 30-foot gap.
It's something that like you wouldn't have the dice to do before, otherwise. Like,
But yeah, that's
no matter
that's just gained by being rank 5, though, right? You've got the extra dice. That
no,
doesn't
like
even need to
there's
be-
Right, but if
so
you
in
were
D&D,
rank 4,
I can just like teleport, or I can just jump 100 feet. Usually, like the GM would humor your roll, but if you roll a 20, like you're still not going to do it. Like you'll just jump and go pretty high. What this is supposed to be is that now that actually becomes possible. Like you can actually do that. It's still difficult, but you can actually now accomplish those things that otherwise you couldn't do.
You're still going to be
like
rolling against a massively difficult skill, though. The odds of winning
that's
are
the
going to...
that's the point of the fifth thing, is that it reduces the number of what that massively different skill is. It now
Okay, that's
becomes
not what
reasonable.
this says, though. What does it actually do?
yeah, that's because
I
you
just said what it
changed
does.
You've never given me an actual like change to anything, though.
You surpass your limits by basically increasing your own ability to perform actions. This will reduce the challenge delta of unfathomable, skill checks. I guess words are hard right now, but basically like jump 30 feet in the air. Like by default, that delta would be too high that you just don't have enough dice to do. When you surpass your limits, you're reducing that delta you have to meet, so that you can still do it with the dice you have. It's just no longer something that's completely unfeasible.
So all tasks just become a max delta of 5, 6, 7, something like that?
Yeah, something like that. But there has to be some risk to it, or some sort of like fallback for failure or something like that. So it's like an all or not always an all or. It depends on like how kind of out there the skill is how much danger it is to perform it. If you want to just be really sure, if something is like kind of a high delta, but not really, like if you really want to make sure you want to do it, then you can use this to do it. You have a bit of risk in its failure, but if you're jumping 100 feet in the air, it also is assuming that you can land, or you're trying to make it to a cliff or something, right? Where the failure for that is, the point. Say I'll give this example. So you have a 100-foot cliff, and what you're trying to do is jump up that 100-foot cliff to get to the ledge and pull yourself up. If a regular person is going to try to do that, they're going to jump as high as they can, which is going to be a couple feet, and they're going to land because it's reasonable. You surpass your limits, you jump, but you make it to 90 feet, you don't make it. Now you are falling 90 feet, and you're going to splat. Like it's kind of like those kind of scenarios. It could be a 20-foot cliff, and you jump it, and it's no problem, or you miss it, and now you fall 10 feet. It kind of sucks, but you're not really going to fully die. It's like those kind of scenarios where like the higher the reward, or the higher the reward, the kind of higher risk, but it really allows you to kind of push the limits is the point of it.
Okay, so what does it do to the delta?
Sets the max CR to 5.
No matter what? So if I wanted to jump like 500 feet?
Yep, you wouldn't be free of consequence. You would fall 490 feet if you only jumped 490 feet.
Just forward, like a quick travel. I'm just going to jump forward over and over again, like hundreds of feet.
Yeah, and you land on your face, break your neck.
Like it's not up to the system to punish it. It's up to the GM to punish it.
But I mean, you're basically just Superman at that point.
It's the last skill. It's the max skill. We were talking about power fantasy. You can die from it.
Some sort of a limit.
Yeah, and that's up to the GM. At this point, it means they can surpass their limit and try. Like they have to explain why. They can't just be like, I'm just like absolute god. They're like, I'm gonna like really put everything I have into my legs, and my legs are gonna be. I'm not gonna be able to walk after for a while. I'm gonna basically destroy my legs, or I'm gonna rip my arm off to get out of this situation or out of this boulder. I'm not gonna have an arm after, but it's like the great, it's this spending a lot to gain a lot kind of aspect. Like if you're jumping 500 feet in the air, like when you land, you're probably gonna destroy your legs or destroy yourself is the kind of premise behind it. You're not just going to be fine. Same with when you're jumping up 500 feet. Sure, you might make it, but you go up with such velocity that, you know, you could hit the wall on the way up, or like you catch yourself. If you do it perfectly, then like awesome. But, you know, they could put limitations in there. It's up to kind of really the GM perspective to like put up what the cost is going to be.
Well, if we're limiting the delta to 5, the odds of them failing are pretty slim at that point. So that's
not if they're up against a CR5 challenge. Then it's an even roll, and they still need to delta 5 it.
No. We're talking about making that. That mean just there's no influence of that skill if they're trying to do a CR5 thing. This skill would only kick in if they're trying to do like a CR30 thing where they're going to get a CR5 roll.
Yes, exactly.
But CR5 is the equal of their skill. So when you factor in the pluses that they have on top of it from everything that they're going to be doing, they're going to make that more often than not. That means everything you can dream of is going to be more often than not. So we might have to make that a bit higher.
Well, if we're using the same roll calculation on the opposed roll, then it's 50-50.
No, because they're going to have a lot of pluses that the other roll doesn't have more often than
like what?
not. Especially if you're +5 in something, then you're going to be, you know, your gear is going to be towards it. Everything is going to be towards it.
So do you roll 5d or 66 plus 5 against 66 plus 5, and maybe you have like a +2 from equipment? So you have an advantage of 2?
Well, okay. We'll see how it plays out. I'm still not completely sold on this. See how it plays out.
I mean, with Magic, we added like some pretty strong stuff for this. And like it's strong, but I mean it's just, we have extreme examples, but it's something that you would use for, you know, kind of less common things. But I mean, we also could just say there's no bonuses. You do it, you surpass your limits, not your equipment's limits. That's it. Like, we can do stuff like that too. It's not, but I do like the idea of just like, because I remember I wasn't originally sold on it at first when Rich brought up the idea of just being able to, you know, have those clutch moments. But I think it's nice to have that option. It doesn't always have to be like such a life or death gamble, but it would be nice if that thing can scale to a life or death gamble. But I think surpass limits doesn't mean you have to, you know, flip the car 100 feet in the air, but you could, you know, lift it for 5 seconds so someone trapped could get out from it and, you know, suffer the consequence of, you know, probably straining something and being sore for a couple days. But, you know, I think if it's still like within that reason, it's fine. And you can say they can attempt to flip it up there, and it would be, you know, the 50-50 chance of failure now becomes you try to lift the car and you just don't really lift it and it hurts, between you put so much energy in trying to flip the car 100 feet in the air, you just completely like snap your arms and like rip your back basically, and you just fall over dead. Kind of have an idea.
You try and do it, but your skeleton can't handle it, and you just broke both of your arms and your back.
Or you just burst all the blood vessels in your head.
But they couldn't handle it and broke them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's that's what I mean by surpass your limit. It's like, well, you know, what are your limits? They, you know, it's up to like what they're really going to be trying to do. Like, all right, you're going to jump 500 feet in the air. Okay, well, the amount of force that's going to be needed to accelerate you up there is basically you're going to turn into a rocket, and just like off impact, your legs are just going to, you know, be nothing left. You'll get up there, your arms will get up there, and your torso and head, but you know, your lower half probably won't be up there. And you know, it might be a situation where like there's a bunch of lava coming at you, and like it's either you just cook or you just got to jump up this face of cliff, and you know, survival is survival. So like there's the extreme examples, but for the most part it would be like I'm gonna jump up a 20-foot cliff, and you know, my legs are gonna hurt. I'm gonna have to like crawl for a bit after, and it's gonna be up to GM discretion to be like, this is okay, what do you want to do, what's your limit, and then they will spit back what the penalty will be from what they find is just. If this person is like, you know, super strong anyways, and that's kind of been their whole role, and they've got augmentation, if they've got gear that helps, you know, maybe they got moon shoes, something like, sure, you know, you can do it without that much risk. Or if, you know, they're bogged down with a lot of heavy gear, then, you know, maybe they make the risk of this stuff kind of worse. But I think it'd be neat to have that kind of aspect of the, yeah, you can try anything now and it's possible, but it comes with that huge gamble. But you know, you're so physically in tune with what you are you know how to try anything, and like you'll understand what the consequences are when you go to try it. It's just how peak you are. Will it resolve right? Who knows? You're going to try it, but at least you know how to try it.
And it allows for the DM to say no as well. Like,
I like
if you're doing a hardcore realistic modern setting game, you can just be like, no, you can't jump 20 feet. You can jump 5 and grab that, that 10-foot ledge, but you can't jump all the way up to it. You then have to spend your next action climbing up the rest of the cliff.
Where I'm at right now is I like the goal. I like a lot of the option it gives. I'm not a fan of the implementation, and none of the thing about it has given me that aha feeling yet, but I also don't have anything better to offer. So
I think it's just a misunderstanding of like the actual execution of the thing. It just because you can do anything doesn't mean you will do everything. Like you still have to know, like you know your limits, and there's still like you surpass them, but like you can, like I said, it'll kill you, kind of thing. Even if you succeed,
physics doesn't stop happening.
Yeah, like you can succeed to a degree of like, yeah, you put enough force to probably get you up there, but it's just going to kill you. Like the gym just say that'll kill you. But you tune it back a bit to it's a bit more realistic. You can push yourself up. It doesn't mean like blanket statement, you just become a god. It just means you can try these things you normally couldn't try, or would be unreasonable. But you have to explain why you can do it or how you're going to do it, and then the GM has to come back with the consequence of it. If the consequence isn't there, then you tune it back. But
I just feel like it's the one thing out of all of the things we've come up with that just doesn't nicely and easily slot in, and I think we're going to come up with something better in time, but I'll leave it for now.
Okay.
By all means, if you come up with something better, let us know.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not arguing with you guys. I'm not saying no, we can't do it, because I don't have anything else to suggest. It just hasn't given me that warm fuzzy feeling, like use a bonus action or use the skill in combat. Those were very much, yes, it fits so well. And this one's just duct taped onto the side.
See, that's kind of what I disagree with. Like, this whole thing is about letting the players feel powerful.
Like I said, I like the goal of it. I like a lot about it. It just doesn't feel like it fits in yet.
I guess we could tune what it actually does to the deltas is probably the most thing. Is the attunement for deltas. I think your biggest issue is that it locks the deltas from a delta 100 to a delta 5. So we can tune that part and come up with a better way of limiting that, or maybe it can apply a bonus to what your deltas are going to be, or maybe it's something to do with advantage, so it's still within like.
How about it halves the what are we calling the super delta? Is that a crit now? Where you delta 10 so it doubles the bonus?
We have a crit?
We just came up with it earlier today. We were saying
who knows if it's gonna stay, but if you delta 10 something, you double your bonus.
That we came up with that earlier. I don't know if you remember that. We really liked it at the time. If you get a really, really big roll, you get even more of a success. You just like super succeed it. How about if this lowers that to 5? So if you get a delta 5 or above, you double it. It makes you a lot better at doing those super things. Oh, you need a delta 10 to succeed that. That's a big task. If you delta 5 it when you're a 5 on it, you still succeed. And delta 5 is way more reasonable to get.
I'm just trying to think of balance of, because if we start factoring in like the delta value after resolution, how that will scale into that. I do like it. I do like the thing that you can do kind of that superhuman thing more often because you're so good at it. And my main concern with the surpass your limits is that, it's going to be something that probably isn't used as much as the other final level stuff for the other types of skills. But I do like the idea of just being able to, really, push yourself physically to a breaking point.
This also means you're just going to do the hell out of the thing way more often, even with normal tasks. Like if you delta 5 it, you delta 10 it, and you fucking nail it. And then when you want to do that super difficult thing, like a delta 10 task is a pretty difficult thing to do. It makes that reasonable. And then you can still attempt for that, delta 20 perfect roll kind of thing.
So let's take that example of a 10-foot cliff, or maybe 12-foot cliff, just to make it a little bit more difficult. And there's a lava flow coming at you. How is this different?
It's just when you make the roll. So let's say it was a delta 7 to get across that 12-foot cliff. The GM decided. You fine with a delta 7 for a 12-foot jump?
Sure, delta 7 would be required, but what are you rolling against? What's the dice pool that you're rolling against?
You roll against a delta 7. You roll against the difficulty of the jump.
Yeah, but no. Okay, I think you're doubling up on delta, which is already a loaded term here. Let's use the term CR to represent dice pool, and the term delta to represent
the bonus,
the amount you would need to succeed by.
Okay. So yeah, it would be a CR7 to jump across it.
You'd be rolling against 7 dice. It would keep the highest 5 because you have 5.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you delta 5'd it, you're not going to make it across. But if you're at 5 skill, delta 5 becomes the bonus target, so it becomes a 10 delta value.
So it just gives you a bigger delta.
So you actually make it where otherwise you wouldn't have.
It feels a lot weaker and like there's a lot less consequence.
I think that's what he was going for. I think we were just trying to put a ceiling on the limit. I think it's what it is. So you can't do the 500-foot jump, but maybe we just put a limit. Maybe it's surpass your limits to like a certain delta value or something. So the GM could still calculate, or CR value, I should say. The GM can still calculate difficulty, and it means they still can't try something of a CR 100. But maybe you can now attempt things that would regularly be a CR 10, 15, 20 or something like that.
Or maybe it makes the bonus bigger. But yeah, basically what I'm going for is being able to reach a higher delta value while still having a limit on it, but being able to get above what anybody else would be able to without the 5.
I've figured out what's giving me pause about this. We have everything geared for deltas up to 5 on all of our other systems. 5 is the hardest delta.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's fair. All right, because it would be as high as the skill. Okay. But then how do you determine... then there are things that are going to be above delta 5.
Deltas that are greater than 5. You get your rank 5.
Yep.
That's it. That's as good as it gets.
That's as many dice as you get. The skills have to be able to go above it, I guess, for the opposed roll. That's something we'll have to think about. There's,
Yeah,
there's
I think
definitely
we're
an
gonna have
edge
to
case
come
in
back
there.
to this one.
Yep. To deal with edge case of max CR being 5 due to CR of skill being based on skill it would take to do it, and max skill being 5. Yeah. Yeah. I think that should help us remember.
Max edge case of max delta. I think you may have misunderstood what I said. I'm going to try and clarify. This may spawn more discussion. The
Hey, Ninja.
The deltas in all of our other systems go up to 5. Every time you delta 1 higher, you can use additional effects.
What is delta here? Oh, I see.
Delta is the delta between your roll and their roll, like your totals.
That's not everything. Like
It is in all of our other systems.
You don't need to make a Delta 4 roll in order to use a bonus action.
Pretty sure that's how we. No, maybe we.
That was only in,
talking about
combat.
this.
That is in combat when you're attacking somebody. That is a specifically combat thing. Is you can't parry, and like when you can attempt to parry, but you're gonna have to make the DC the Delta 3 roll in your actual combat interaction to successfully parry. Otherwise, the parry fails.
You can use the parry if you get a delta. So let's take the exemption. Let's. I'm going to state my understanding.
Okay.
You can correct me afterwards. My understanding was, you roll the opposite. Your attacker rolls, or initiator rolls, opposition rolls. In the case of a parry, if you were able to Delta 2 the attack, you would remove all secondary effects from the attack as well. If you were able to Delta 3, that would not consume your defense action, so then you could use it again later. If you were able to Delta 4, you would then be able to say, I parry and take a sidestep.
Other way around, though. You would have to say, I'm going to parry it and step out of the way. And then you'd have to make a Delta 4 roll to get the step out of the way successful. You do have to declare before your roll.
Kind of awkward. We'll come back to that later. And then 5 was allows offensive use of the ability, so like parry and riposte.
Yeah.
But in order to get that riposte, you have to say, I'm going to parry and riposte, roll, get the Delta 5, otherwise the riposte fails and you do not get any of the other effects.
Yeah, you would parry as long as you won the roll to get the Delta 1 to successfully parry and do the thing, but you might not get to riposte if you don't parry well enough.
Okay, so my understanding there was correct. That means the max delta, the max effective delta for that is 5. Anything over a 5 until you hit 10 doesn't matter. You just deal a little bit more damage on the riposte.
Yeah, well, you're just getting a bigger value, right? Like if you're doing it at the time we were looking at like a programming example where there's a lot of work to be done, so that if you get that big delta value to do a lot of work, you do a ton of work.
Right.
In combat applied, it would be if you hit the guy hard enough to kill him, then you get hit the guy hard enough to fucking splatter him. You get the overkill.
So then on a physical skill rather than an information skill like programming, getting more than a Delta 5 doesn't do anything. Because if you Delta 5 it, you succeeded. You did it. Good job.
I guess that is true. We're just kind of going for a max delta. Or we're going to get a delta 1 is really the target of these. Which really does change them, doesn't it? We do have to think about them differently. So this should be looked at more as reducing the CR. Make other things more possible.
Yeah, something that you couldn't normally do becomes CR5, which is them. The opponent roll would be 66 plus 5, and your roll would be 66 plus 5.
Yeah, so you're not making it easy. You're making it possible. And I'm okay with making everything else easy too to represent that you've gotten there. What if we just play with something simple like reducing the CR of skills by half?
Interesting, potentially broken. Let's keep Let's keep reduce max difficulty rating in our back pocket and try the reduce by half.
Round up. Always got 1. But at that point, 1, it might as well not exist. That's a trivial skill roll at that point.
Yeah.
You're just going to CR the shit out of it. You're just going to be like, I win.
Because you're going to have, at a minimum, a 6.
Yeah.
If you roll a 1 on your 1 die, and you have a plus 5, that gives you 6.
Yeah, but I mean, you're probably going to roll a 6 as well. And that means you're going to get, most likely, the best roll that they can get, and a tie goes to the aggressor. So if you get a 6 in your 6 dice, you automatically succeed at CR1.
Yeah, and CR1, your min roll is 2.
When we want new DM playtesting, excellent. We will definitely let you know. And when the system gets its very first playtest iteration, we'll be doing it on stream with me as the DM. And we might pull 1 or 2 other players, and we'll see. We'll see how things go.
It'll be fun.
Because we will need to be able to test things. But we will absolutely... This whole thing is open source, Dragon Magpie. All of the links are available in the previous videos. All of the documents are public. And if you want to play with it, you're welcome to just go and grab it right now and play with it. That's why it's here.
Although, keep in mind, it's half finished.
Yeah, it's nowhere near really playtestable yet, but this is all open source game design. We do everything for the general public. It's open to everyone who wants to use it. We just like coming up with ideas. And I see the car heading very close to my house, so it seems like a good breaking point. We went a little later than we meant to, but we came up with at least something that I feel like can be play tested.
Yeah, I honestly, I still lean towards reducing the max CR of a skill check. That is still my preference.
That's what we're doing right now, reducing the CR by half.
Not quite. It's slightly different. If you reduce the max CR to 5, then it's like it only allows you to do things that humans normally can't do.
But I just, something rubs me wrong about being able to jump 20 feet being the same role as being able to jump 200 feet.
Well, yeah, but that's up to GM. Does the campaign that you're playing in allow for superhuman strength? Sure, you can jump 200 feet. If the GM says, no, that doesn't fit our campaign, they say, if you try and do that, all you're going to do is shatter your legs.
But then 5 ranks in physical skills is a GM discretion if it's useful or not.
No, it's always useful. You just need to change what your goal is.
But the GM could literally say, no, that's not humanly possible, and just limit you to normal human things, because his campaign wants it to be normal human things, at which point 5 is worthless, and it's just a bad GM in the system. Let him be a bad GM.
I don't see that as our problem.
Yeah, I mean, like, if there's a branch at 20 feet up, and it's a 100-foot cliff, you could then say, if there's a branch at 20 feet up, you can try and jump to.
And I mean, that would still be a 14-foot vert. That's insane.
Yeah. So, like, in any pen and paper, so they can always say to do the 200, but I mean, it's still up to, DM discretion to say either no or just say it fizzles or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So then it's up to them to solve that problem of they want to do something impossible. I need to make it, impossible. They understand that this CR5 thing is they want to feel superhuman. How does it fit into our current campaign? Is he super strong enough to jump 200? No, but he's strong enough to go 20, and that's enough of a risk. I'll say there's a bit of a ledge at 20 feet that you could probably grab onto and hold onto, which will save you from that lava.
I think we can come up with something that does this that is more firm. That's all. It hasn't given me the warm fuzzy yet. It will, and we'll keep hitting it till it does. But it's not quite there yet. But everyone needs brain food now, so we're gonna stop arguing about this for just a minute and go eat some food, and maybe we'll come back and even play some games later.
Yeah. You wanted to check out that indie roguelite shooter thing.
Oh, the Anacrusis is one, but I'm also totally down to pick up a couple copies of Gunfire Reborn with Pseudo and do that up, because that one's gotten the Pseudo recommendation, so it's higher up. The only reason I mentioned Anacrusis is because it's totally free, but I would much rather check out the Pseudo recommendation one, which I've seen him playing, which looks like a fast-paced roguelite Borderlands.
Yeah,
wacky
I also
zany
want to
guns.
check that out.
With Risk of Rain elements too, because you RNG your
kit.
Your kit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So you guys want to play that tonight? Pseudo? Rage?
Yeah.
I'll be around later. I got a thing to do after
Okay.
this. I got some homework, but I'll be around tonight. But my character's high level right now anyways. I'm on so it might make sense for maybe you guys to try it out and do the low level content first, because I don't know if I can make a new new profile.
That's Pseudo's way of saying go level up because I don't want to play with you scrubs. Okay. I got you.
I would love to play the start, but like my character, like, it's kind of because when you finish a run, you get soul essence, which you spend to level up your talents, and you have a talent level.
Yep.
And then every talent you put in is another level. And I'm at level 125, which means I have basically the full tree. So I start with a bunch of money. I do a bunch of extra damage. It basically means if I go on normal, I one shot everything, which is fine. But for your first couple of experiences, I want to make sure not to just
parry us and make it boring.
I don't know if I can, because there's different characters in the game, but it's one talent system, and you can buy it for the other ones. It's one talent system shared between them all. So I don't know if I can just reset all that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I totally understand. Rage and I will be back later to do that. If I'm back before him, I'm going to load up some beaver because I want to show off the town that I've finished. I'm just done with it. I've spent 2 hours just floating around and looking at things and making minor little changes, and after a couple hours went, I haven't done anything. I think this town's done. So I want to look at that, and I first want to look at the base map. Here's what we started with, and take a look at how the landscape has actually changed over a gameplay, because the game's really interesting and the land updates a lot. So until the next time, I'm Deus.
I'm Rage.
And I'm Pseudo.
And may all your shots be headshots.